Welcome to Love to See It, a podcast about girlfriends who want to stay on a farm and reality stars who want to get out of a mansion.
Reality TV coverage is truly a study in contrasts.
And yet it all comes together to give us the cultural moment that we're having right now.
What a beautiful one.
A little housekeeping before we dive in. We covered the Valley premiere over on Rich Text last week. The Valley premiere and also a lot of the gossip surrounding Brittany Cartwright and Jax Taylor that has been coming out around the premiere. And we are covering You's final season soon. We're really excited. We've been covering You for a long time, and this is the culminating season where it's all going to come together. So check that out at Claire and Emma Pod.
So excited to talk about it.
Me too. That is going to be at claireandemma.substack.com. So last week we really dug into the first 4 episodes of Farmer Wants a Wife. We got all caught up, but we can't just drop it now. So we're going to talk about episode 5 of Farmer Wants a Wife. Episode 4 left off mid barn dance with Samantha, Farmer John's very contrary, very challenging, but beautiful bachelorette.
And arguably the most interesting person on this show.
Yeah, like I resent it a little bit because she's trying so hard to be interesting that I'm almost like, you're not interesting. But I actually have to respect it ultimately because most of these women are not trying at all to be interesting, and
it shows.
It shows. They're succeeding at not being interesting a little too well. So Samantha is at this barn dance, just simmering with anxiety, and she has told Farmer John that she's anxious and refused to tell him why. So he's simmering with anxiety. Finally, she decides to just pull him aside and talk to him about it, and she takes him to a convenient vignette that's been set up outside the barn. There's like a living room sized carpet and hay bales covered in warm blankets for them to sit on, as there usually is outside a barn dance. And she tells the camera that she said coming on that if John didn't meet her needs, she wouldn't hesitate to leave. But it's been a lot harder than she expected because he doesn't meet her needs. But they actually really hit it off.
She's so honest. She tries to do the compliment sandwich thing a little bit.
Yeah.
She's like, you're so amazing. Maybe the most amazing. Maybe the most loyal person I've ever met. Is there evidence of this? Obviously not.
How could she know that? She's known him for like 3 days.
No. This is why she's just trying to do the compliment sandwich. She's like,
right.
You're amazing. You're so amazing. In this way and this way. You're God-fearing. You're family-oriented. You're everything I've ever looked for. And John is like, okay, I'm not an idiot. What's the but?
Yeah. That is a lot of men who are leads on shows like The Bachelor, respectfully, are not very smart. And to be able to read the situation and be like, okay, I feel the butt coming. What is it?
John is like, I'm a law student. Okay, I know.
Just an amount of being clocked in to your surroundings that actually we rarely see from men on these shows.
So true. They're mostly like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I am.
Like, yeah, I am
the most loyal.
And I'm so God-fearing. I can't get over the fact that she was like, you're one of the most fiercely loyal people I've ever met, when that truly is a virtue that is proven over time. And she has only known him for a few days. But he understands that she's buttering him up. And he's like, okay, what's the but? And she says there are little things that are keeping her from believing that she's what he wants in a partner. And I mean, there's just basically one big thing, which is that he wants to be in charge.
And she wants to be in charge.
She's like, I think she actually says, like, I know I'm what you want.
Yeah,
she doesn't
she's
lack
like,
for confidence.
No, she's basically like, I know I'm what
Yeah.
you want, but I'm not what you need, which is apparently just like a very passive woman who's going to let you do whatever you want with your life and just like follow you.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he does need a woman who will really put him in his place. But she's sort of letting him go, like the spirited heroine of a romantic movie. Who's like,
I was interested that he did not seem to fight it at all. He was just like,
Yeah.
okay, well, it's been a nice time getting to know you, and I'll be moving along.
Yeah. I'm going to say this about Farmer John. I do not think he is taking this seriously at all. It's possible that he will end up with a partner from this process, but he strikes
He
me as
won't.
someone who came into it with no real intention of getting married. Like, he is someone who is
100%.
going to wash you for law school. He's not someone who's like, I'm out in the middle of nowhere and I can't find a wife who will help me on the farm. I think it's actually pretty easy for John to find the kind of women he likes to date. And I don't think that he is taking this as a lifeline for building his future family. So when Samantha's like, I'm going to go, he's like, all right, like, I'm just killing time here, to be honest.
He's like, I'm on this show. I'm not actually really a farmer, and if you don't want to date me, that's cool. He's also 25 and doesn't truly seem in a rush to get married.
Yeah. And I think it also is true that when Samantha is like, we both want to be in the driver's seat. And
he's like, true.
He's like, that's true. I do want someone who will let me lead, as you say. And so, fair play. Nice to meet you. I will find a way to enjoy the other hotties that I have in my farmhand slots right now. And he tells her it was fun having her around, someone who is in the exact same headspace as him. But maybe when she's gone, he'll find that was someone else. He's sort of like, you were kind of actually a roadblock because we're so similar. We were having fun together.
He's like, I guess now that I won't be able to flirt with you, I'll have to actually attempt to get to know any of these other women.
Right. So they have a very friendly goodbye. They part ways, and he heads back to the dance where the other women think that Samantha and John are making out during their private time. But then Samantha comes back and says that she's leaving and it was her decision. And you can see like everyone, even like Farmer Colton, turning to watch what's happening, shocked. Like, isn't that the girl that Farmer John really likes?
That's the one he likes. She's leaving.
And Farmer John is like, I'm literally fine. I don't care. The other girls really embrace Samantha warmly. She was never a villain in the true sense.
No.
She was someone that I think is designed to kind of rankle a certain portion of the audience because she doesn't seem like she is the kind of submissive, like here for the right reasons girl that people want to see on the show. But the other women liked her.
Yeah.
And she leaves saying to the camera that she's confident that Farmer John will find his wife here. It's just not her. And that song plays that's like, I needed to lose you to love me.
Yeah.
That they always play during breakups.
Love.
It's like Love is Blind, like Temptation Island. Farmer Wants a Wife.
They have all licensed these same pop songs.
And he tells the camera that they had a special relationship, just like England and the United States used to. And his biggest fear is not having that anymore, but it will be a good opportunity to get to know the others, like Russia, for example. He's fine. He's totally fine.
He's no one's ever been more fine than Farmer John. Like, he truly just could not give two fucks who's there. He's like there to be on TV, make out with some hot women, and then like move his life right along.
If your top girl leaves and you don't seem upset at all, I'm like, you don't care about this.
Yeah, you are unfazed.
You're done. The other women actually seem more upset than he is, but they're also relieved. Like, they liked Samantha, but they're also like, she was taking up so much of his attention.
Oh, they're like, finally, maybe I'll have a chance to briefly date this man.
Yeah.
So
they're like,
meanwhile,
are you okay, John? And he's like, I'm fine. I don't care.
He's like, I literally don't care. You're not listening to me. So meanwhile, the rest of the farmers are dancing with their ladies. Karina is teaching Jay to dance, despite the fact that the drama with Tiana that we discussed last week has, quote, put a lot of stress on myself.
Yeah, that drama's put a lot of stress on herself, and she's struggling. But she does get a chance to get Jay to herself here, and we see a livelier side of her.
Yes,
in this
more
episode
than we've seen from her the whole time, I'd say.
Tiana's been oppressing her with her personality.
By having one.
by having one. Tiana is pretty downcast. When we left her last week, she had this terrible conversation with the other women in Jay's farm about their conflict, and she hadn't talked to Jay about it. We did see one or two of Jay's other women talk to him about it, but she's still just kind of in her head and worried that this conflict may be jeopardizing to their connection. And she tells the camera that if she doesn't get a moment with Jay, it might be time to pack it up. And you hear the producer being like, really? And she's like, yeah. But she gets a hug from Haley because she has some friends outside of Jay's house.
God.
And she's like, I feel really iced out in my house. And she's like, I have not been nasty to anybody. I really try to be sweet to everybody. We do know that she called Julia a hoe. So maybe a little reflection there about whether you've succeeded at not being nasty to anybody. But I do kind of, from what we've seen, I still do believe that Tiana just is a personality clash, and she didn't actually think that that would cause offense.
I agree.
The other women are with Jay, and this scene really bothered me. Jay is sitting with the other women in the house, and they notice Tiana with Haley, like, crying and being embraced. And Julia's like, oh, look, she's crying. Cry me a river. Like, to Jay, to their mutual interest.
They're so mean about her. It's, like, too much. Like, okay, you find her annoying. You got to take it down a notch.
Well, and it makes them look bad, I think. Like, 100%. Jay asks them why they think Tiana's crying, and Karina says, because you're not giving her any attention. Like, who do you think looks bad after you say that? It's not
you
Tiana.
Just look like a dick.
Right. It makes you guys look like you're bullying her. Jay doesn't seem to be reading too much into anything at this point, so he's like, huh, okay, well, I'm going to go check on her. And she ends up sobbing even harder and tells Jay that she's felt left out by the other girls. I will say that last week when we didn't see her talking to Jay, I was like, she didn't run to Jay and tell him what was said. She did eventually get to Jay and tell him that the other girls were leaving her out. But I don't think that she went that hard. Like, we don't see her name anyone or say anything specific that they said. She's just like, I feel left out. And
much worse has happened on The Bachelor.
Yeah. And he's like, well, how you feel is valid. And I'm glad you opened up and told me because you're always smiling. You always seem fine. So I appreciate knowing how you're feeling. But, like, basically, you're not here to make friends. You're here for me. That's why you're here. That's the reason, to get to know me. So just stay focused on that and don't worry about whether you're being ostracized or bullied by the other women.
Just deal with it.
And she's like, well, sometimes I do feel not like it's excluded by you, but maybe like you don't want me there. And he's like, that's not true. I do want you here. And this helps her perk up and enjoy the rest of the night. But now Jay's a little bit stressed.
I think Jay's like, wait, I said that, but do I want her there?
Well, I mean, what's he going to say in that moment? Like, sometimes what will happen if you say that to the lead is that they will say, yeah, well, I don't. Yeah. So now that we've kind of confronted that, I guess you should leave.
It's time for you to leave.
But Jay doesn't seem to have that killer instinct. And I think he is still, in his very low-key way, trying to figure out if Tiana's really an issue or not. Because she is, like, he has fun with her around. She's cute. I think she's a nurse, right? She was the one who's like, I can be helpful on the farm with, like, treating injuries. Like, she seems like a realistic option for him. Maybe he's kind of just like, well, let this play out. But as of this point, she feels left out because none of the women like her, and Jay is not particularly paying attention to her either.
I mean, if I were Tiana, I'd be like, I am leaving. This is hell.
I would definitely leave after the selection of the one-on-one dates at the end of the barn dance, which we'll get to. But yeah, the way that the rest of the barn dance plays out really left me feeling even more like Tiana is being bullied. And
poor girl,
not feeling super sure that it is warranted. So at least that's how the edit is playing out for me. Meanwhile, with Farmer Colton, Zoe finally steals some time with him, and they have a very romantic conversation. They sit down,
Colton
and she's
is
like,
really showing up as like the secret, sneaky, sexy lead.
and it's like in this way where he is sort of awkward, but he makes it work for him. Like they sit down, and the first thing she does is like, "Can you spit out what you have in your mouth?" And he's like, "Oh, do you want half of it?" And she's like, "No." What is that? And it's a mint. And he's like, "Sorry, I probably shouldn't have a mint in my mouth." And I'm like, this is not smooth at all. And yet, this is like the most romantic conversation I think we see during the barn dance. She brings up the fact that she's still trying to advance her career. Unbelievably, she hasn't accomplished everything she wants to accomplish in her career at 22. Which
She's been in the workforce for approximately 9 months, and she hasn't done it all yet.
So she's like, I hope you're not looking for a stay-at-home wife because, you know, I'm a nurse and I'm studying to advance my qualifications. I want to get into anesthesiology. And he's like, anesthesiology, like putting people to sleep? And there's a loaded pause. And then he's like, that's awesome. I love that.
He's so excited.
I love that. I mean, I don't love. It's very telling of the show's worldview that there is this moment where it's like, how is he going to react to the fact that she wants to be a nurse anesthetist? Yeah. Pretty badly, probably. Like she doesn't want to be a stay-at-home wife. Oof.
Also, just telling that like she is nervous to see if it's a deal breaker for him. Like clearly, the baseline assumption on this show is like, these men probably just want a woman to pack it all up, have some babies, and be a domestic laborer.
Yeah.
No dreams for herself.
Well, as we all know, the real title of the show should be Farmer Wants a Farmhand.
Farmer Wants a Trad Wife.
Farmer Wants a Free Farmhand. Same thing.
Yeah.
He tells her that he also has big dreams, and he'll be her biggest supporter if she wants to go out and kick ass. Because he wants to be 80 and bragging to his kids about how smart their mom is. He's like, how smart you are, that's the hottest thing to me.
Thank you, Colton. Thank you.
He's an ally.
Hashtag male feminist.
He's a classic liberal wife guy. My wife is the smart one. He asks if people pigeonhole her as just being pretty, and she says no one has ever told her she's just pretty. And he's shocked and seems to think this means no one has ever told her she's pretty at all. He's like, no one's ever told you that? You're beautiful. I'm pretty sure someone has told her she's beautiful. I think she was responding to the implication that people have told her she's nothing more than pretty. Correct. Which fortunately no one has ever done.
Yeah, I'm happy for her, actually.
And it's time now for him to drop one of his Colton lines and get that kiss because he's a closer. He says, I'm a terrible kisser. And she's like, oh, really? And he's like, wanna try?
Smooth move.
It does not work. She's like, no, not here. And he's like, well, you were leaning in, so I must have been pretty smooth. And she's like, no, I was just getting comfy. So, like, the ice has been broken now. They're flirting.
Yeah.
He's gotten into his flirt game with her a little bit. She's like, good thing I don't go for looks. And he's like, oh.
It's cute. It's a little banter.
I found this connection to be surprisingly charming.
Same. Look, at the beginning of the show, if you would have said, like, you would be at all invested in what this blonde man and this blonde woman are doing, I would have said, couldn't be me.
Yeah, I think that, honestly, off the top, Colton was one of the farmers I expected the least from.
Same. He's over-delivering.
He's really over-delivering. He's become, like, my favorite one.
The bar's in hell. On that note, we're going to take a quick break. And when we get back, we're going to get into the rest of the barn dance and the date selection. And then later, we'll be talking about the new Hulu show, Got to Get Out.
Can you keep up? I like
And we're back. So amidst the barn dance, of course, Farmer Mitchell and Sydney are still there, the one successful couple from the American reboot of Farmer Wants a Wife. And Farmer Mitchell is offering his mentorship after like 1 year of dating. He tells the farmers to look for the women who are doing the little things for them instead of starting drama with the other women in the house. For example, Sydney was always watering his grass, which was good because there wasn't enough rain. So you have to choose the woman
who does the best labor on your farm. I'm obsessed with this because on The Bachelor, someone would say something like this, but they'd mean it metaphorically. They'd be like, you're the woman who's like, you know, not just out here starting drama, but like watering your relationship as if it's grass. Is that grass green and healthy, or is it dry, brown, and brittle?
How is your love plant? What's the state of your love plant these days? Your love fern. How's your love fern? I literally thought this was a metaphor at first, Emma. And then
he's like, no, the literal grass on my literal farm.
Because then he started being like, yeah, there wasn't enough rain. And so a lot of things were getting all dry. But my grass was green because of Sydney. And it's like, oh, it's literally about watering grass. Wasn't that a big part of Grant and Juliana's thing on The Bachelor? Is like, or was it Dina? Like, there was a lot of like, you're going to water me and I'm going to water you.
Yeah,
I think
Juliana, maybe Dean. It was Juliana?
I think it was actually both. We're going to water each other and grow into the strongest plants we can be. And Farmer Mitchell is like, how's my hay? What's the situation with my alfalfa?
Oh, God.
Which of the women water this? She's going to be my wife. And Jay takes this in and decides to seek out time with Karina, who is actually always checking on the dogs and the chickens. So she's sort of the Sydney of the group. He's like, those little things, that's what I look for. I'm like,
he decided about 1 minute ago that is what he does definitely look for.
Right. I'm like, you haven't been paying much attention to that until Farmer Mitchell told you to marry the woman who waters your grass.
So thank God for Farmer Mitchell's mentorship, or else Jay would have been lost.
Yeah. But Jay has already fully internalized this. He's like, that's who I am. I'm just a guy who wants to marry a woman who checks on the chickens, those little things like that. And he sits with Karina, and she's immediately like, I don't want to talk about the chickens. Let's talk about football, because I, too, have a career, but then I have my real passion, which is coaching gymnastics. So I relate to the fact that you're really still involved with coaching youth football and you care about football. And Jay loves this. And he's like, we're very similar. And also, you're, quote, super attractive for real. And she's like, I also, you know, when you were wearing your 3/4 zip and your athletic gear, I found that very attractive.
This is so indicative of the cultural brand of Farmer Wants a Wife. They're like, you know what's hot? A 3/4 zip.
A 3/4. I mean, that's elevated.
I get a little sweaty when I see that 3/4 zip.
Do you remember that whole discourse a few months ago about how the 3/4 zip was like a sundress for men? Like,
well, you know what? That really makes sense.
Women go crazy for the 3/4 zip. I felt like I was living in an alternate reality. I
have never seen a 3/4 zip and been like, oh, I'm getting a little bit wet.
No, it's like an adequate look. I'm like, that's fine, but it's not. It's not something that gets me excited.
Imagine you're like, I had the craziest sex dream last night.
Yeah. I'm always like, oh my God, it's finally 3/4 zip season. Yeah. The men are walking around, little bit of chest hair peeking out.
I'm going to have to say, hey, honey, you'd look better with a smile and that 3/4 zip.
But, you know, men these days, they don't care about looking sexy. They never wear 3/4 zips anymore. It's always just crew necks. Have you noticed that?
So true. I have.
They don't care.
I have. And I think we can all agree that mankind is worse off for it.
Yeah, because they're all too woke to look sexy for women. It's the death of heterosexuality. So just a little update here. They're doing some tree trimming and wood chipping about 15 feet from my front door right now. I can see it all happening from the window of the room where I record. So if you hear some horrific grinding noises, I do apologize. They're literally wood chipping entire trees outside of my window right now.
That's
And
just
there's
like
only so much we can do.
The real and authentic nature of this podcast, you know?
Yeah. It truly makes me want to escape to a farm, because if there's not a fire truck in my street during a recording, it's literally a wood chipper. So back to Jay and Karina. Jay and Karina have finally expressed that they're attracted to each other, and they handshake that they are going to try to get to know each other better and say deal. So the romance is really heating up.
I feel it.
They've got that vibe. So they decide to up the ante by going outside and making out a little bit.
You know
Which
what?
seems
That's
to go
great.
well.
That
Yeah.
seems like a good indication.
Yeah. No, I mean, I understand they probably didn't want to make out in front of everyone. But
They're not Farmer Colton.
No, Farmer Colton is like, I'm down to make out here, there, anywhere. In front of the women, behind the women, when the women are asleep. I don't care.
Farmer Matt, in the wake of Rachel leaving, has just decided to put that out of his mind and get to know Alexandra, who feels like he has barely paid attention to her. So they dance and they flirt a little. There's nothing really that much to say about it.
Yeah, Matt is just waiting for everyone to dump him.
Yeah,
He's
Matt
sort of
is the most
like John
passive
in
man
that sense.
alive.
Yeah, like, why didn't you just send Rachel home? You're not interested in her and she doesn't like you. He just waited until she was going home, and then he was like, all right. And now Alexandra wants to get to know him, and he's like, all right, sure. Again, a man who is really here to promote his exotic fruit and avocado farm. Kaylee pulls Farmer John aside so that now she can get to know him in Samantha's absence. Like, there's space for him to notice another beautiful blonde woman. And she says her goal is marriage, and she doesn't want to be sent home prematurely before he gets to know her. And he promises that he won't. He will get to know her before he sends her home.
At this point, I think both of us were like, oh, Samantha, we miss you.
Yeah, because I'm like, why are we watching a conversation that's just like, I want to get married, please get to know me? That is
It's
like
doing
a
nothing. It
content-free
is doing
conversation.
nothing for me. I was like, okay, skip 10 seconds ahead.
I want to go back to Samantha's dialogue that seems like it was created by some sort of like AI LLM trained on bad YA romance novels.
I want to watch Samantha neg Matt just every week for an hour until I die. Like, that's what I need.
Do you
in
mean
these
John or do
Oh,
literally
I mean
all the
John. I
farmers?
actually mean John. But see, this is how
They all blend together.
they all blend together. John, Jay, Matt.
Yeah, John
Like-
is the one with the mustache.
I do know the difference, but I'm just saying the
Yeah.
names. You're like, pick a man name out of a hat.
Honestly, I would love to watch Samantha neg any or all of the farmers.
Same,
even
same.
the ones that
She
I
could
like.
neg Matt. Actually, bring her back to neg Matt.
Bring her back to neg Matt.
He needs to be put in his place.
He needs his feet held to the fire. I think she could expose him. At the end of the dance, the farmers and their harems all assemble around barrels, as they traditionally do.
I like that on The Bachelor, there's always a bench. On Farmer Wants a Wife, there's always barrels and bales of hay.
It's an aesthetic, right? It's an aesthetic. That's why Farmer Matt seems like he doesn't fit the show, or he seems almost like some weird sort of diversity,
Yeah.
because his farm doesn't have that traditional American farm aesthetic of just bales of hay and barrels everywhere.
No, it's just like gorgeous ocean views.
Yeah. So they assemble by their barrels to be quizzed by Kimberly Williams Paisley about the women who have left them during the dance, and to choose their next solo date, and they're going to walk right out with that woman. And Colton gives a little speech before he makes his selection, being like, I want to pick a woman who is the epitome of a badass, someone who caught my eye the first night. And the camera shows Bailey looking optimistic at this. But after his conversation with Zoe, I think we all knew it was going to be Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
Matt chooses Alexandra, the woman that he danced with. John, so basically they just all pick the woman that we see them talk to. John picks
Yes.
Kaylee. I suddenly realized at this point that Kaylee is wearing like a white satin dress with the silhouette of a horse's front half on it.
Yes.
It was appalling.
Bad. The fashion is horrendous on this show.
It's just like a themed t-shirt in dress form. Jay has a very fraught choice because of the house drama with Tiana. Like, is he going to pick Tiana or one of the women who is maybe bullying Tiana or being bullied
The
by
latter.
Tiana? Yeah. So he chooses someone who he says was vulnerable with him, and it's Karina. That must have been tough for Tiana because he specifically thanked Tiana for being vulnerable with him, and also all the women in the house hate her.
It's rough.
But he
It's very
clearly
rough.
doesn't want to alienate all the other women. Plus, he wants to marry someone who checks on the chickens.
And he thinks Karina's hot. That's actually, think, Jay's main motivating factor.
Yeah. I mean, I do think he thinks they're all hot, which is why
They're all still there.
Yeah, right. The one that he wasn't really feeling is gone. So we do see these dates. John takes Kaylee golfing, a classic farming date from this show. She immediately crashes the golf cart and stalls it over a curb. And then when they start golfing, she hits a ball into the truck. And she's like, haha, I have no idea what I'm doing. Send help. Which is perfect for John, who can put his firm hand on the steering wheel of this golf excursion.
Yeah, he's like, great, finally. Someone I can
Yeah.
teach things to.
Finally, a woman who can't drive. That's what I'm looking for. But Kaylee seems like she's coachable because she golfs well. She gets some kudos from Farmer John. And then they sit and have their serious talk. She tells him that her dad knew her mom was the one the first time that they met.
Okay.
And he's like, have you ever had that? And she's like, basically, yes, except they didn't feel that way about me. It's sort
I'm
of
just so bored by all of these interactions. I was like,
Yeah.
I know now that Samantha's gone, like John's women are so uninteresting to me that I
yeah.
am no longer paying attention to John.
I'm like, this is also like basically the same story that Samantha had about her dad, but presented in a much less weird and vaguely menacing way, which is what made Samantha's interactions with John fun, where she was
Right.
like, my dad won't acknowledge that other women exist. My dad taught me about loyalty.
What about you?
Do you know anything about loyalty? And Kaylee is just giving us the absolute basic, bare minimum bachelor date notes here. And John just doesn't seem that into it. He's like, she
so
seems
not into
great.
it.
He's like, she's great, but her heart does seem fragile, and it does seem very large, like a giant glass punch bowl.
He's like, she's nice, and I don't want to hurt her large heart.
Her large, fragile heart. If you tip it over, it's gonna shatter.
Like, Kaylee's done. John's not
Yeah.
into it.
I think it was promising at first because she's hot and she was like funny and fun. She crashed the golf cart, so obviously she'd need him to drive. But then it's like it's deflated by
There's
this.
no banter.
Yeah. Colton takes Zoe out for a day of exploring Mena, Arkansas, population 5,589. So there's obviously a lot to explore. Mainly his friend's store, which is called Cow Babes Designs Western Boutique.
Wow. That's quite a branding.
Yeah.
That is.
It says it all. It tells you what you need to know. And they actually have a lot of chemistry and like banter.
They
on this
do.
date.
I believed in their connection way more.
Yeah. I actually felt like she seemed like an even better fit for him chemistry wise than Bailey after this.
I know, and I was shocked because Bailey seemed like she kind of had it in the bag.
Yeah, but I think that Colton is actually he's one of those people who can have chemistry with a lot.
Well,
of
that's what
people.
we're realizing, that
Yeah.
he seems actually very uninteresting and flat at first, but he can actually create chemistry out of virtually nothing.
And as we noticed last week, this gets him in trouble because he can simply look at a woman and summon chemistry to such an extent that she becomes weak in the need and powerless. And then he's like, oh, I was feeling nothing while that was happening. But this is more mutual. He and Zoe are having fun. Like, he's showing her his baseball cap flipping tricks and like making funny commentary about the clothes in the store. They're looking at cow print boots, and he's like, I'd be walking all over men's hearts in these. And she's like giggling. And it's cute. She's like, I love his
cute.
goofy sense of humor. I feel like if I were going to, choose one of them sight unseen to marry, it would probably be Colton at this point.
I know, that's so dark, but it's true.
This is what the patriarchy wants, is to create this sense of like scarcity. Like, these are the men that you have. You got to marry one of them.
Guess
and I'm
the
like,
best
okay.
one. He does think women are allowed to be intelligent and work at 22. So he's it.
I mean, he did the legwork. When they sit to talk after their browsing of the one store in Mina, he asks her if she's really open to moving there. And he's like, I've looked up job opportunities, even though I didn't know how to spell anesthesiology. And he's like, but I did find that there are job opportunities if you're interested in it. And she's like, well, yeah, I'll be done with school soon, and I want to change. I don't like living in such a fast-paced city, and so I am open to it. And actually, like, it can be really hard to get qualified
medical
workers.
professionals into rural areas. So, like, I actually would imagine that her skill set would be in high demand.
Yeah, she'd be a real asset to the community. And then we see a producer asking why he didn't sneak a kiss with Zoe during this date. And he almost seems surprised and sort of like, oops, like I missed my chance. And he's like, oh, I would have, but I just loved talking to her and I wanted to listen to her more and more.
Colton, you're getting to us.
I swooned.
This
and then
man likes listening to women. Wow.
But then I was like, is that a bad sign? Like, is this like that episode where Jerry is dating the woman who's exactly like him and they never end up having sex because they're having too much fun talking? And it like fills up all of the like air in the conversation. There's never a space because they're having such fun banter. There's never a space
that's a good
to make
point.
out.
It could go either way. I think we need to see more.
Yeah. So Matt takes Alexandra to a vineyard, and she's hoping for a little more affection from the kissless cowboy. He is not into kissing.
He's giving nothing.
He's giving no kisses to nobody. In his confessional, he says, the whole romantic thing, it's not easy. And he concludes he'll just follow his gut, and that's all he can do. And at this point, sincerely, I'm wondering if he's into any of these women at all, or what's going on.
Really doesn't seem like he is. Something is weird here.
Yeah, there's something a little bit off. Like, not off like it's bad, but off like if you are professing to be romantically interested in these women.
I'm not seeing evidence.
I'm not seeing it. So she asks about his last relationship when they sit to have their like wine tasting at the end. And he says that she had a lot of really good qualities, but they just weren't right for each other. And she laughs and says selfishly she's glad he's here with her. And Matt mumbles, I'm not mad about it. He doesn't seem mad about it.
Nothing. He's giving nothing. She's like, so tell me about your last relationship. Oh, was that someone in Texas? Was that like he is just offering nothing.
Yeah. And when she's like, well, I'm glad I'm here with you. He's not like animated like, oh yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't trade this. He's like, yeah,
anything.
I'm
not mad about it.
He's not anything about it. You could pick him up and put him anywhere. Then there's this awkward silence because obviously that is way too unenthusiastic of a response to such a complimentary and flirtatious comment. And then the silence is broken by her noticing a giant spider on the ground under his chair. That is the most lively moment of the date, but things are about to take an even scarier turn because Alexandra and Matt talk about what they might want out of their future. She shares that she was married for 5 years to someone else in the military. She's been divorced for a year and a half. He's pretty, again, bland and supportive. And she's like, I'm so glad you responded that way. And he's like, well, I'm pretty easygoing. Again, like, I just literally think he doesn't care. I think he's barely paying attention.
Same. He's like, I'm here. I'm physically present. That's about all I'm giving.
He's like, why would I care if you were married before? I don't remember your name. Like, I don't know why I'm here. Who are you? Will I ever see you
I don't
again?
plan
It
on
doesn't matter.
ever touching you. It's irrelevant to me.
It's like, why do I care if that woman in the next town over is divorced? I don't. You're equally meaningless to me. I know about divorce. It happens. I'm just not going to get that worked up about it. What does it have to do with me? And then they talk about kids. And then he expresses some opinions. Suddenly he's got opinions. Matt's got
He's
opinions.
like, oh, wait, you want to talk about where the right place for a woman to be is?
God.
It's in the home with her children, multiple of them.
I was like, suddenly Matt's got ideas. He cares about stuff. She's like, I want 2 or 3 kids or more if I can stay home with them. And he's like, oh, yeah, I had a great life growing up with my mom at home with my siblings. It's obviously the best way to do it.
He's like, I know, I'm the authority. And it is objectively the best.
Is it obviously the best way to do it? You don't seem like you came out so great. Are you sure that they couldn't have been done a little bit better? My mom worked, and I don't know. My brothers and I think, are pretty much gems, personally.
That's true.
Your mom worked, and look at you.
I know.
I'm going to say this needs more study. He's like, you can just stay home and raise our 10 kids. And she laughs and does not say she doesn't want 10 kids. And he's like, well, I better get cracking if I want 10. But
Matt, do you know you have to generally you kiss someone before?
well, I think Elon Musk is showing all of us that you don't have to do much of anything.
That's true. You know what? I have seen Pretty Woman. I know all about that sex without mouth to mouth.
I was talking about
Contact.
even something even less invasive.
You mean just offering genetic material?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to say, Matt doesn't seem like the type who's all for science being involved.
No, that is true. That is true. He seems like less of an Elon Musk coded conservative, but I think it's becoming pretty clear that he is quite conservative.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Pretty clear.
But he's not giving that kind of like, I'm going to get my wife pregnant 10 times without breaking a sweat over the course of the next decade, because he literally doesn't even want to sit close to any of
No, he
these
seems
women.
to be like, well, when I marry a woman, I will kiss her.
Yeah, she's the one I will kiss. In his confessional, he's like, I don't want to kiss all of these women if I'm only going to marry one of them. But Alex is pretty disappointed. She's like, I did all I could.
Alex
and
is
he
like,
didn't
I am
kiss me."
trying. I am trying. I'm asking questions.
She wore
I'm
her
being
pretty
charming.
milkmaid dress.
I'm wearing my milkmaid dress. I'm making jokes. He's not responding to a fucking thing.
I'm offering to stay at home with his up to 10 kids. I didn't say no to that. And he still doesn't want to kiss me.
Yeah, if I were any of Matt's women, I'd be like, girls, let's pack it up.
It's funny because he took Halle on the date to see if they could find a romantic spark. And I'm like, if there's no romantic spark, it's not specific to Halle.
It's
In
not
fact,
any
it
of
has
these
nothing to do
women.
with her.
It's not their fault.
They're all giving everything to have a romantic spark with you, and you are inert. You're just there. Jay takes Karina to help him coach his youth football team because obviously he knows that's her passion. So I thought that was very thoughtful. It was a very personalized date. And they have a really good time. She loves it. She loves clearly coaching kids. They all think that she's hot, and they want to know if she is their coach's girlfriend and if they can have her number. What's not to like? And then they have like a classic farmer wants a wife night date, sitting in the bed of a pickup with like
As
a
you
picnic.
do.
And she tells him that she's one of 6 kids spread 15 years apart. And she says they drove an 8-seater, which really shocks him, but it seems like it would be the minimum for a family of 8. Just counting 2 parents, 6 kids.
You
7,
would need
8.
8 seats.
You would need 8 seats to drive them around. So I personally wasn't that shocked. He asks how it would be for her to move from Wisconsin when she is so family oriented. And she says that they would figure it out. And then she asked what it would take for him to feel confident in her. And he's like, I feel a connection growing. And she's like, great. That's what I
nailed
needed to
it.
hear. It kind of sounds like she's like, what would make you choose me? And he obviously doesn't want to answer that.
Yeah, no, because he doesn't know.
Yeah. And then they make out in that way where it looks like he's sucking on her upper lip and she's sucking on his lower lip.
But she seems into it. I was like, oh, these two actually seem to be way more into each other than I assumed, because we had seen so little from Karina up to this point.
Yeah. Well, she needed to put Tiana.
She
in her
needed to
place
bully
so that she
Tiana
could-
for a bit, and then she could really focus on Jay.
So that brings us to the end of the episode, and we learn that next week the farmers' moms are going to weigh in, which we all know will ruin everything. And that is why in literature the moms are always dead, so they can't ruin everything.
It also seems like maybe the moms are going to be picking from a pool of women to like enter the game late, which they
That
often
is
do on this
definitely
show.
going to ruin everything.
Yeah.
So should we rate this episode in aspiring trad wife vibes out of 10 milkmaid dresses?
Yeah. I think it's like somewhere in the middle for me, because obviously we have an extended conversation about how it's the best way for a woman to be is at home and in the kitchen with her 10 children. But we
Yeah.
also have Colton talking about how he likes to listen to a woman
Yeah.
and support his future wife's career goals.
I'm knocking 3 points off a perfect 10 for Colton, but the other 3 men were giving trad wife
Extreme.
search.
Yeah.
They
I
were
agree.
doing their trad wife search committee. So for me, it was a 7. I felt
Yeah.
like their focus on that was even greater.
Yeah, I agree. I think you felt it pretty explicitly. For me, Matt was giving the greatest amount of tradwife energy, but you're right.
Yeah.
John is out here being like, oh, you want to be in charge? See your way out.
Absolutely not.
Honestly, I'm still enjoying watching and dunking on this show because it just feels like such a bizarre side of what has now become the dominant culture. And I am just looking from the outside in horror.
Yeah. No, this season has more juice than the past seasons, and it does feel very representative of where we are as a culture. And coming up, we're going to talk about another show that feels weirdly telling of where we are as a culture in a very different way. We're going to be talking about the Hulu reality competition show Got to Get Out. That's coming up after this break. We'll be right back.
Can you keep up? Love it.
And we are back, and it is time to talk about Got to Get Out, a Hulu reality show that is clearly trying to trade on some of the success of The Traders. It brings together a bunch of different reality stars from various genres to play one giant game with some normal people too.
Yeah.
And look, I got to be honest about this. This is not my kind of thing normally.
Yeah.
Yours either.
I mean, I think also the fact that we're describing it as being like The Traders speaks to that, because this is a whole genre of shows, right? It's like The
Yeah.
Mole, like all these shows that are like social trust games that, you know, involve some sort of like problem solving within like an enclosed space. It's not just The Traders. That's just the one that we watch.
That's the one that we like. Generally,
And-
these competition shows are not our favorites, but we knew that we had to check this one out because there were some familiar faces in the cast.
Yeah, there are a few Bachelor people, especially, but some other reality stars we are familiar with. So let's talk about the format, which is... Honestly, it was very hard for me to focus enough on the show to absorb the format. Emma, did you finish the show?
I did end up watching the end, but I did skip one of the middle episodes in
Yeah.
order to successfully finish it all so we could talk about it. But I feel like I got the vibes.
Yeah, to be fair to the show, I did watch a lot of it while folding laundry or washing dishes. So
Also, to be fair to you, given the number of times that the host, Simu Lee, has to do math and like re-explain how the show works to everyone watching is an indication that it's kind of a complicated setup that's a little hard to follow.
it's a weird show. So it follows 20 people. Half are new to reality TV, half are reality stars or like celebrities. And they're all stuck in a giant mansion together for 10 days. And their mission is to break out of the mansion in order to steal this money pot. Or if that no one steals the pot, then they all split it at the end. So the whole time that they're in the house, they don't really know what time it is. Instead of a clock, there is a money clock that is ticking up $1 at a time. Ultimately, the pot is going to reach $1 million unless someone steals some or all of the pot. So if you escape when the pot says like $220,000, then you steal that money. And then
It resets.
the pot begins to replenish, but that will always be taken out of the ultimate prize of $1 million. So people, this was the weirdest part to me.
Yeah.
It's not like figure out how to get out of the house. How do you get out of the house? At random, you are like gifted, if you are so lucky, escape plans, like escape strategies from a ticker tape or some other delivery mechanism that will indicate like when a particular exit, which are available like around the house, there are 10 and they're like color coded. It'll be like the window in the red bathroom is going to open between this dollar amount and that dollar amount. So it's not like your ingenuity that allows you to get out in almost every case. It is ingenuity in execution, but you need to be randomly given that opportunity, which irritated me from the start.
Yeah, it's like randomly selected, but it means that some people get many more opportunities to escape than others. And it's also just like very confusing to follow, especially at the beginning. Like when I wasn't even aware of who half the characters were. And in episode 1, they're like immediately doing multiple escape plots. I'm like, what the fuck is happening and why should I care?
Right. Why?
Like the beginning I found like truly painful to watch.
Yeah.
I did eventually get more into it, but I was like, I hate this at the beginning.
It was the kind of viewing experience where I was really I found myself actively looking for distractions from the show because I didn't want to watch it. But like basically they get the escape opportunity if they get out of the house. If they choose to take the opportunity and they get out of the house, then they have to make it down a very long, well-lit driveway and out of a gate, which opens up when there are escape opportunities open. So normally the gate is closed, but if it opens when the exits are open. People who receive these opportunities can then try to escape alone or enlist other people to help with their plan and split the money, which very quickly they all realize they need to do. It's almost impossible to get out of the house because you have to make it down this large, well-lit driveway. And if an escape attempt is seen or detected by another player, there's a big red button in like a central location in the house that someone can push and shut the gate. And there are 20 people, so it's very easy to have someone up on the roof looking out, people at the front windows. Yeah, and then you just yell like hit the button, someone hits the button.
And it's foiled.
Yeah,
it's very difficult to escape successfully.
Yeah. So it's hosted by Simu Liu, as you said, and there are a handful of familiar faces to us, specifically Demi Burnett, Susan Noles, and Claire Crawley, who are from The Bachelor and Bachelor in Paradise, Golden Bachelor, and Bachelorette and Bachelor in Paradise, respectively. Some legends in the game. And there's also like Spencer Pratt, Omarosa, Housewives Kim Zolciak and Cynthia Bailey. There's like former NFL
Rashad.
running back. Yeah. And then there are some normies and some very not notable figures, like a model named Lindsay, who was so completely cut out of the edit in the first like 8 episodes that we both thought she was like a producer or something.
I was like, oh, that brown-haired woman, is she not a background actor? Like, truly, there are people that I was like, I didn't know you existed.
I would catch sight of her and be like, wait, who's that?
Yeah,
What is she doing
exactly.
here? Did they leave a producer in the shot? But there are a few non-reality stars who end up taking on central roles. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's like, I think we've seen the like normal people casting work really well in, say, The Circle, but I wasn't sure if people would pop in this setting, but a few of them did.
I mean, this is again, it's really common. Like most of the Traitors seasons are half
outside the
U.S. And like a lot of reality shows like this, like strategy competition shows, are just cast with normies.
I think where I was interested to watch is that the way that the show was marketed was very heavy on the reality stars.
Right. Because if you're going to get the reality stars, then you lean on them.
Right.
To promote
so I was
the
like,
show.
okay, I'm going in because I saw that like Susan Noles is there. Right. Am I going to end up giving a shit about these random people?
But as I always say, like, it's weird to me in a way to do this divide because every reality star is just someone who was a normie maybe one season of TV
It's
ago.
true.
You know, Susan was no one when she went on the show.
That's true. But a lot of these people are like career reality stars. Like Spencer Pratt. I'm like, I've been watching Spencer Pratt on TV. Like he is basically the same age as us. And he's been on TV since like we were in college.
No, absolutely. Some of them are, but one of my favorite reality shows, the one that we founded this podcast on, is made up of people who have never been on reality TV before. And so I wasn't like worried that they wouldn't pop for me. It's more just that I hate this kind of format. That's what I was worried about.
And
like,
I mean that was, well, I guess that is what I mean. I was like, my eye is not like going to those people because I'm just like, who am I supposed to be paying attention to? Like that is something that bothers me a lot about certain reality show formats. And I think that's why I generally respond to like a romance narrative show better where there's a central focus. Because when there's just many characters running around, I'm like, what is happening? Why should I care? What is the story arc here?
You're like, is there one man whose attraction can serve as our guiding light?
Exactly.
For who matters? I know. I love that too in a reality TV format. Fortunately, there are
someone like on Traitors. I do think that the narrative is crafted quite carefully, and you have, Alan Cumming, who is not just a host who is an actor, but he is like a character in himself who is setting the tone and the like narration of the show very clearly.
And Simo is more like a voice of God. We don't see him very much.
Yeah, and I think he does like a capable job, but he is not like an active character in the show.
He's not interacting with them. But there are some non-reality star characters who break through. There are, I will say I was shocked by this. There are 2 Athenas out of these 20 people and 10 non-reality stars.
I only remember one.
One is a firefighter, and then there's Greek Athena, Athena V, I think, who is a mathematician. There's also Athena V's romantic showman's interest, Doodles, whose real name is Nick, and he, in order to seem non-threatening, comes in with the made-up nickname of Doodles and the made-up job of toy designer. And the made-up personality of being, like, really friendly and quirky.
I was like, did Doodles initially audition for The Circle?
I don't think so. I think that he wanted to be on a game like this. Like, I think that he sees this as befitting his actual career, which is game design. He's like, I know how to break out. I know how to, like...
He doesn't. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, he has much too high of an opinion of himself, like many men. One thing that we keep touching on is like, is this show just trying to be the Traitors, or where is it coming from, like culturally? Like I think it's an original concept. I was trying to look around. I hadn't seen any other.
It's a totally original concept, which I will give them props for, because like so much everything that comes out right now in entertainment is based off of pre-existing IP. So it's like I do give them credit for trying to be creative and truly coming up with like a new game format.
Something about, maybe it was just the first episode, but to me, I felt like it really was a product of a world in which Mr. Beast is seen as this sort of breakthrough entertainment figure. And Mr. Beast's whole thing, from what I experience as someone who doesn't intentionally follow Mr. Beast, is always like, I trapped like one person in this grocery store, and if they can stay here 100 days, they own it. Or like, I trapped one pilot in like a jet and one submarine driver in a submarine, and if they can stay in there for 100 days, it's theirs. You know, like a lot of like trapping
Is
people
that
in
is that what
places.
Mr. Beast does? Wow, I literally
That's a
have
lot of
fully
what he
avoided
does.
Mr. Beast. That's
He does other things, but like a lot of it is that sort of garish, you know, over the top, consumption heavy spectacle that feels also sort of Squid Games adjacent. Like, I'm gonna torture this person in this showy, expensive way,
yeah.
but then the reward will be beyond their wildest dreams.
Well, that's another odd thing about this mix of reality stars and like more normal people, is like the wealth gap between the
Right.
reality stars and the normal people, because a lot of the normies are sitting there being like, I have never earned, you know, more than like $25,000 in like from like one
Right.
thing, and like this 40K will like go towards my like mother's retirement abilities. And like
Yeah.
then you have people who are career reality stars who are rich. Like,
Yeah, I honestly, to me, it almost made it part of the reason that I kind of actually don't enjoy normal people on these shows is that it makes me sad.
no, it's
that
sad.
they
That's
don't
what I
all
mean.
win all the money. Like, I want them to have the money. And then you have some people who are competing for the money who, yeah, they want to pay for their mom to have somewhere to live, or
Or like
to finally buy
medical
a car,
debt or
medical debt,
school
student
debt.
debt.
Like,
And then you have celebrities who are like, I'm finally going to be able to pursue my dream of opening an animal sanctuary. And I'm like, while that is nice, you will be fine if you don't.
or
have
like
this
Val
money.
Chermovsky from Dancing with the Stars at the end is just like, wow, I got 40 grand, getting my wife another really beautiful gift. And it's like,
Right.
that is lovely. That is lovely. It's not that I'm like, these people should, but it's an odd contrast.
Right. And ultimately, it made me really, yeah, it threw off my emotional investment in the outcome, because I just wanted all of the people who were really struggling to get the money.
Well,
And
exactly.
I didn't want someone to get the money just to like buy a nice gift for their wife, or like pursue some sort of like little hobby that they could definitely find a way to do probably without this, and either way they'll be fine. But yeah, some of the people are genuinely here being like, this is my one shot to like wipe out my student debt, and I will do anything to make that happen. And that's dystopian. Like, that's remember when
that
there
is
was
very
that game
Squid
show
Game.
that was
That
like,
is Squid Game-esque.
right. But remember when there was that reality show that was very explicitly like, this is a chance to wipe out your student debt, and everyone was like, this is so dystopian, and it was. But that's also what a lot of these shows literally are. If you cast normal people, a lot of people come on these shows to wipe out their medical or school.
I mean,
or
that
student
is
debt.
quite literally the conceit of the fictional show Squid Game, is that
Yeah.
people will debase
like, real
themselves
ones.
and put their lives at risk in order to counteract crushing debts that they feel so desperate they have no other way
Yeah.
to
and
out-earn.
that
And,
that
like,
is real. That's
yeah.
how, that's already how these shows operate in
Right.
the real world. Less murder.
Yeah,
less
no
death.
one's dying, so that's great.
Although I will say, the first episode, I was shocked that, unfortunately, this doesn't continue. It's temporary. But the way that the escape is set up is that
oh my
there
God,
are
I hated
4
this.
luxury sports cars, like Lamborghinis and Corvettes in bright colors, parked in front of the mansion. And if you get an exit strategy, you also get a key to one of the cars. And so the idea is for these people to be racing to get into a luxury sports car they've probably never driven before and drive it as fast as they can toward a gate that is maybe closing.
I know. I was like, they're going to crash. They're going to die.
Right. I was like, what kind of liability insurance do they have on this production?
I guess they're
insane.
just counting on the fact that none of them know how to drive. So they're just going to make so much noise that they like barely get anywhere with the car.
Which is what happens. Like, no one gets that far down the drive because
I was so glad when the cars went
loud.
away. Well, you were saying to me, like, don't worry, the cars don't stay. Because I was like, I hate this. I'm upset.
And that really added to the Mr. Beast feeling for me.
Yes.
Which is just like, we got this orange Lamborghini. If he can drive it through the gate before it closes and crushes him, then we'll give it to him. You know, like that sort of thing. It's conspicuous consumption in this sort of really dystopian, like macho worldview that I think it feels very of the moment to me because it feels so like coded in line with the current like right wing sort of techno futurist wing of like the MAGA movement. You know what I mean? Like there was this aesthetic with that whole contingent of like the young male right winger who's
I was just so glad to see the cars go away.
Same. Yeah. And no one died, thankfully. But I was really worried.
Same.
Also, yeah, I just don't understand how you would ever get through the gate using the Lamborghini because it's so loud.
You wouldn't.
And there are people by the button. All you have to do is hear a Lamborghini and you're like, bang, hitting the button.
Right, which is, I think, why they did it episode 1, because they don't want anyone to get out that early. Yeah.
And they want to keep switching up the strategies.
The mechanism, which ultimately, once you get into it, is fun to see.
Yeah,
my favorite escape attempt came from Spencer Pratt, who is a star.
It was pretty good.
He decides that he needs to do like a hiding in plain sight thing and dress up as a crew member in like all black and just like carry a giant houseplant out the window with him, which works pretty well.
It almost works. And it's funny because you see him preparing by zipping 2 pillows under his coat, which is honestly too many pillows.
I know. I was like, just one, Spencer. It looks fake.
But beyond that, he points out that he's just trying to look different from how he looks. He's trying to change his physique, but he's like, that's actually not like all our crew members on the show are ripped and like really sexy. But hopefully it will just throw people off. They won't think it's me. But Claire Crawley is up in the tower, in the watchtower, and she looks down and she's like, that doesn't look right. All our crew members are ripped. That crew member is not ripped. Can't be real. Hit the button.
Claire has great instincts. I was very sad she does not make it all the way to the end because she just has like, I mean, to be fair, she's like, I am losing my mind. This is hell. And I just get me the fuck out of here. I'm not going to win enough money.
This sucks. I miss my baby. At that point, someone had just stolen the pot up to that point. She's like, I'm missing being at home with my family and I think at that point, still pretty young baby.
Yeah.
For not even that much money. Like, I'm a reality star. My husband is like a CEO. I'm just going to leave.
I was like, honestly, fair enough. Like, you know that those prizes are taxed to hell.
I know.
So they probably end up getting like half of what they walk out with.
But she had really good defensive instincts. She's very observant. She was cool-headed. And if she was like, I don't think that looks right, and other people were like, no, I think it's right, she didn't let that get in her head. She trusted her gut.
This is the thing. I was like, Claire has been through it. She has been gaslit. She has been made to doubt herself. She's like, no, I know what I know. I know what I see. So she spots a few escape attempts that other people are about to let just like completely go by.
Well, and that's always been Claire's thing, and sometimes it has been to her detriment, is that she does trust her gut.
Yeah.
And she follows it, and her judgment in this show, from what we saw, was really good, and I was sad when she left.
Me
'cause
too,
it
but I was
fun
impressed
watching
with her.
Like, yeah,
I know. I enjoyed seeing. I mean, the fun thing about the Bachelor people is that it is genuinely fun to see all of them in a different setting where the stakes
Yeah.
are different. It's also a dry house. There's no alcohol, so people
Yeah.
aren't acting like crazy messy.
Except that Kim keeps wandering around being like, why can't I have wine? She's like in withdrawal. But also, Demi has been sober for a few years.
Yeah.
And also, I think, had a hard time, like, date on a dating show. Like, it wasn't a natural setting for her, actually. She's, like, hot and blonde, so they kept putting her on dating shows. But I don't think that she really thrived in that setting, and she wasn't sober when she was on Bachelor.
She wasn't
and Bachelor in
sober, and she
Paradise.
also had not received her autism diagnosis. And so I
Right.
think that the way that she was interacting with people and the way that like she felt during those interactions is very different from how she is now. She
Yeah.
was super fun to watch on this show because like
Yeah.
that's the thing about Demi. You want to watch her.
Yeah, she's just kind of comfortable with herself. She's making funny
She's
commentary.
goofy.
She's like lying with her giant teddy bear to like soothe herself when things are stressful. Like she's making friends. I was like, this is how I like seeing Demi. It was always
100%.
kind of complicated for me watching her on The Bachelor, and this was much more fun.
Super fun. I was really rooting for all of the Bachelor alums. Susan. We got to talk about Susan before we go on to a different topic. Susan is by far the most incompetent of the players, and I die for her.
What was going on with Susan? Susan gets an escape opportunity in the first round. Like they all gather around this ticker tape machine to privately get whether
And
they
it's like-
learn whether they get an exit strategy or not.
And like
she
it's
gets one.
very clear that you need an amount of secrecy to escape because everyone's just going to press the button on you. No one's going to just like let you walk out with $100,000.
Right. So it's so baffling. She comes out like cheering. She's like, I got a good one. It's an open sesame. Open sesame. I got it.
This
Who's
is
gonna
when
be
it's
my
at-
partner? I
Who's
need to
going to be my
recruit
partner?
someone.
This is the moment this is going to open. This is what you have to do to open it. And Spencer is just like, Susan, I'm going to press the
Yeah.
button.
She recruits Demi to be her partner and like yells the plan at Demi in front of the whole house. And Demi is like, great. But in her confessional, she's like, what is she doing? Like, why is she telling everyone they're just going to, like, she becomes clearly very embarrassed that she's involved in this incompetent
It is embarrassing.
exit.
It's the most incompetent thing I've ever seen. I was like, is Susan stupid or is she just like, I don't give a shit if I win anything. I'm just like here to have a
so
good time.
I had like layers, rounds, like journeys of thoughts about it. First, I was like, Susan is the least strategic thinker I've ever seen at work. And then I was like, maybe she's just having fun with it because it's early on. It's not even that much money. Like she's not seriously expecting to escape. And she just wants to go outside and have a walk with Demi.
that is what some of them you realize after a few days.
Yeah.
They're like, I just literally want
Wanna
to
go
be in
outside.
fresh air.
And then I was like, is this a different kind of strategy where she's making sure that she is entertaining TV?
Screen time.
Yeah.
Screen time and entertainment.
Because
And
if
I
so, it
do-
worked and I loved it. This was one of my
Same.
favorite parts of the season.
Same. It was so funny. I also just I really was warmed to Spencer Pratt during, and I have been for quite a while now, but like he has this like dry, wry, low, he still brings that like villainous edge that he's always brought to TV, but he's like a 40-something dad now.
A
So-
40-something wife guy.
Yeah, he's a
wearing
huge
Heidi
wife guy.
Montag's merch
Obsessed.
every
Every day he is wearing a different Heidi Montag t-shirt. It's
But again, he's a hustler.
wonderful.
He's like, listen to Heidi Montag's music. Like, steal the pot.
it's
Defend
great.
the money. Like, they are like working, like middle class, like working reality stars. Like, they're always trying to hustle and get more money. And he's just so, like, yeah, like dry and sarcastic and matter of fact about it.
It's so funny. It's the dry sarcasm that was just like killing me. Like he's just like looking at Susan like, Susan, what are we doing here? He has the same little tete-a-tete with Kim Zolciak, who like at first I was like, do they hate each other? And then it's like, no, they're obsessed with each other. They like torturing each other. They like needling each other. They're
they
both professionals.
Know that is how TV is made, right?
Yeah.
They're both professionally people who mix it up with other people in social contexts for content, and they know how that works. But Susan ends up being kind of consistently good TV because she's so bad at this.
So great.
And so I did start to feel like the truer answer is that she knows that the real reason to be here is to make good TV and to stand out on camera.
And to stay relevant and to parlay this into other opportunities.
Yeah, because some of the normies who are like stressed about getting the money, I was like, I totally get it. But also, if you are likable and fun to watch and you break through, you could make that money back in influencing opportunities.
100%.
So don't just hide in the back and cry. You know, get out there, do some weird stuff.
Also, like, do you want 50K one time, or do you want the platform that you can continue making 50K indefinitely?
It's the teach a man to fish of reality competition shows.
Exactly.
So what other incompetent episodes does Susan have? She gets like a bunch of escape opportunities, and for her next one, it's another open sesame. I think she gets like all the open sesames. She has 2 partners recruited this time, and they're like more like focused, competent. Like, we're gonna plan this in secret. Like, we're gonna have a fast runner. We're gonna have someone who's prepared to like disable the lever. I think. Like, there's a whole plan, and it might work. And all they need is her to open the window. And instead, she makes meatballs for the house, eats the meatballs, gets sleepy, and takes a nap, and misses her entire escape window.
Susan. Shameful.
Susan. Like, her partners are like waiting in place. Like, where is she? The time's ticking by. Like, I'm being patient, but where is she? And then they find her taking a nap afterwards. And she's like, why didn't you wake me up? Susan, they were in place.
Susan, that's your job.
That's your job, is to be awake.
She's like, no, my job is to make chicken piccata and meatballs for the house.
Yeah. And then she has one more escape window. And she asks Rashad to run for her. She asks Rashad Jennings to run for her, this fastest person in the house, former NFL running back. She's like, I got to get the fastest guy to run for me. But she kind of neglected her social game here because she and Rashad don't have any sort of real close friendship or alliance. And it turns out that his number one bestie in the house, influencer Yane, also got an escape tip for shortly after Susan's. And Yane comes to him and he's like, okay, then I'll sabotage Susan's because you're my number one and I'll help you instead. And the time comes and he is like avoiding going out the window and running. And Susan's like, what's going on? We had an agreement. She has to ask some other guy who's nearby. And Steve G, who is some other normie in the house, he runs for her last minute and barefoot. He ends up injuring his hamstring and obviously doesn't make it down the driveway. They don't get the money. And it's like, Susan, you have to like build a relationship with Rashad. You can't just like go to the fastest person in the house and be like,
do it
you're
for me.
You're going to run for me now.
Well, that's where the game starts to kind of get fun, is when there are like multiple escape opportunities overlapping each other and it makes people choose which one to kind of like throw their weight behind. I did find that piece of the strategy to be fun.
And as people realize that they need a partner, because the reason people need a partner is really because they need to foil the button defense, because it's very easy to make sure that there is someone watching in the tower, someone at the windows, and someone by the button. And so if you're running, someone's going to slam on that button unless you work with the person sitting by the button. You offer to split with them. You pay them off. You work with whoever is in the watchtower to not send the alarm. you work with someone who has a disabler of the alarm system to pair with your exit strategy. Most people don't get both at the same time. You know, you have to have a team to make sure that that button doesn't get hit. And so if you haven't made social connections with people who are going to be helpful and reliable to work with, then you don't have a shot at getting out of the house.
Right.
And this is bad news for a guy we like to call Trash Can Steve.
Steve, he just pisses everyone off way too early and is simply not charismatic enough.
I have a controversial statement. I'm Team Steve.
You're Team Steve?
I felt like an affinity with Steve.
Claire.
He is a former entertainment writer.
I did feel affinity with
journalist.
him in that sense.
I felt like people were way too hard on Steve. So what happens is he gets one of the first exit strategies, and it's in the first round. He comes out, and someone asks him if he got one. And obviously, as we learn, the thing to say is, no, I didn't get anything. Because you can't tell them. You can't actually be honest. But he flumbles it. He doesn't know what to say. He comes up with a very weird and unnecessary lie that wasn't strategic. It clearly wasn't him trying to
No, it was just a
deceive
stupid
anyone.
thing to say.
He just didn't know what to say, and he said a stupid thing. He says, like, no, it said I was disqualified because I looked at a crew member's watch. And they're all like, what? Like, we didn't know you could be disqualified. That's crazy. Like, what's going on? And then he gets to his exit window and he takes it. He makes a run for it. And everyone's like, you lied to us. You lied to us. How can we ever trust you again? And they're not joking. They're really intense about it. And I was like, guys, you're all lying to each other all the time. No one is telling the truth about whether they have an exit strategy unless it is strategically to work with someone. So I just thought it was like a little bit over the top. He didn't handle it the way that they would have.
I agree with that. I do think, however, he's not very good at building social connections to like refurb his image in the aftermath.
I mean, apparently not, but it really seems like he tries and no one is even open to him at all because he proved that he is inherently untrustworthy by making up this dumb lie.
Or do you think he's just like annoying to people? Like, I do think some of it is maybe just like personality clash. They don't like his vibes.
Do you think that because he's an entertainment journalist, they're like, you're part of the filthy tabloid media?
Maybe for some of them, to be honest.
Honestly, I wonder if that is part of it. Like, they don't see him as one of them. They see him as part of like this oppositional force. He's not like, and he doesn't have a similar kind of personality or vibe to a lot of the reality stars. But even the normal, like, non-reality star contestants, the immediate hostility, some of them seem to have been bonding with him before.
No, it was it was odd.
And permanent hostility was very shocking.
It was
to
odd.
Me, and I think that's what made me feel
bad for him. You're like, what is going on here?
I was like, it doesn't really seem realistic or fair to have this kind of extreme response to him basically just telling a lie that was more colorful than you think he should have told, because no one here really thinks he should have said, yes, I have an exit strategy.
No, you're right. I don't know.
It was just,
I also just think there is no fairness in like these shows, and like if you,
I guess not, but that results in me feeling bad for him.
That's fair.
Like, because there is fairness in the world. But I guess it's true that he might be off-putting or upsetting people in other ways that we don't really see.
I don't think he's bad. I think he just might be annoying to people. That's always, frankly, my best guess for why people become alienated, especially when they're all like living in a house together.
Yeah. To me, I felt like he was sort of being made an example of, because they're all trying to figure out
what
a sort
the like
of code of morality and trust.
Yeah.
Right. Because like they all obviously know that they're not all going to agree to stay in the house. There's not going to be any sort of policing of like, promise you're not going to run. And then if they run, they're all betrayed. That isn't in the picture. So they have to have a different way to form trust with people that isn't betrayed by that. And he is like an early example of a way to show that there is some sort of mode of trust that they can develop, and that it will be like punished. It will be held to account if it's violated. And so he's like an example of like, well, don't do this. Like,
I think that that's right. I do think that he's partly just a way to establish rules, which people love to do. Just look at Piper and Brendan on Bachelor in Paradise.
Right. And then it brings the rest of you together is the other thing. It's like, well, we can all trust that we wouldn't do what he did. He is like our scapegoat to show that the rest of us are actually similar and bonded together. And that's the beginning of us forming trust with each other.
Steve is kind of like, okay, they don't trust me. Well, I'm going to make up another wild lie. And
he does that twice. And it honestly, he
works.
Ends up saving the house.
He ends up making it so that everyone is going to share all the money at the end.
Yeah.
So I wasn't mad at that.
But it almost bites them in the ass, because before he saves the house with it by convincing two of the people, I think Athena and Doodles, that he has a button disabler.
That does not exist.
It doesn't exist. There's never a button disabler. He tells them he has a button disabler and then uses access to their plan to tell everyone that they're going to run and make sure that they get stopped from their escape. Before that, he told someone else that he had a button disabler. And that just like doesn't happen and no one notices.
Yeah.
I thought that was
bizarre.
Attention. But the way that it really almost backfires on the house, that they don't trust Steve, is that he becomes sort of one of the people who likes to press the button. They all become sort of obsessed briefly with pressing the button all the time because they want to prevent any escapes. And so the game, the producers add a twist to the game, which is like a giant bird cage that you get imprisoned in for $2,000 worth of time if you press the button when no one's trying to escape. And they're all like, oh, we can use this to get Steve in jail. Like, we're going to be like, Steve, please press the button, someone's coming. And what happens? He almost doesn't press the button because they tricked him into pressing the button when there was no escape attempt and sent him to the bird cage. And they almost lose the pot of money again because they're trying to bully Steve. So I thought that was sort of poetic. And
I do agree
as a
with
Steve
that.
defender, I was like, you guys, you're having too much fun.
You deserve
mean.
this. Should we talk about the one successful escape attempt and then our enemy, Doodles?
Yeah. The crazy thing about the escape attempt to me is that it was so simple, and so it seems like something that could maybe even be replicated. And they explain how they did it, and still no one does these things like ever again. But the successful escape is by Cynthia and Stein, who is a documentary film, like an adventure documentary filmmaker who comes from a sort of a impoverished background.
And Cynthia Bailey, who was on Real Housewives of Atlanta. I really enjoyed this duo, to be honest.
Yeah. So Cynthia is cut in on this plan.
She's the one who gets the escape plan, and she clues Stein in to be her runner. She has been sort of the button lady. She's like watching the button, making sure the button gets pressed. And she knows wisely, she's a smart lady. She's like, at some point, I can use this to not press the button strategically.
Yes. And she had previously gotten cut in on a plan to not press the button because someone else was like, obviously, I have to pay the button lady for access to the button. And she manages to dither around and not press the button right away, but someone does press it. She manages to play this off and not arouse suspicion. So she still has that trusted guardianship.
She's very lucky because I think it's Susan just like wasn't paying attention and doesn't press the lever from the watchtower, which like alerts the house to press the button.
Yeah, I don't.
They like miss it. Someone misses pressing the lever. Someone in the watchtower is just like not paying attention. It's either like Susan or it's Rashad and Spencer. This happens a couple times where people miss, but like
we have
Cynthia
to pay close
gets
attention
lucky
all the time. It's hard. Well, someone else runs in and presses the button and doesn't seem to ask too many questions about the fact that Cynthia was sitting right there.
And she
people were
plays it
shouting,
off
"Press
really
the
well."
button." She plays it off. So when she gets her escape opportunity, she's like, I'm going to do my button thing. And Stein is going to run for me. She's like, I trust him. He's someone whose vibe I like. I want to work with him. And I think he can get this done. And he does. He runs in a way that I can't believe everyone isn't doing. Not down the middle of the driveway, but on the grass, like hugging the edge of the driveway where it's a little harder to see.
Obviously, you can't be running in the middle of the driveway. Stein did it well.
Yeah. And it's at night, which helps. So it's even harder to see someone running.
He dresses in all black also. He's like prepared.
Right. So he just makes it through the gate when someone rushes in to press the button for Cynthia, who is like, whoa. And the clock stops and then goes back down to 0. Stein comes back. He is given the opportunity to either take all the money or name a co-conspirator in the house or co-conspirators and take them with him out of the house and split the money. And he really needs the money for his family, but and for himself. Like, he's someone who grew up without much and still hasn't been able to make much money. I mean, he's a documentary filmmaker, so and he's like, this money could change my life, but he decides to split it with Cynthia, and then they
has
tell
a heart of gold.
It's very sweet, and they tell everyone exactly how their whole plan worked, and he is like, yeah, I stayed out of the driveway, I hugged the perimeter, like, it's a little easier to evade, I dressed in black. No one does this again. Every time, straight down the middle of the driveway.
Truly incredible stuff. But you got to hand it to Stein and Cynthia. And I do think Stein maybe would have been like a little more likely to take all the money himself if it had been like his escape opportunity that he had gotten.
Yeah, but because like, I wouldn't have been here without Cynthia.
Yeah, Cynthia is the one who like made the plan.
Yeah. So they are the only ones who end up stealing it. We make it to the end without another attempt, even though there's many attempts, none successful. Without another successful attempt. And there are many attempts. One of the most prolific attempters is Doodles.
I hate him.
AKA Nick.
At first I was like, okay, you're fine. A little annoying, a little awkward. No. He is high on his own supply.
So when you realize that his whole personality is kind of this thin disguise over his real personality, it immediately becomes kind of off-putting. Like, he is trying to seem non-threatening. So he's like, I design toys for children like a dumb person. Like, I act kind of like childlike. I do silly dances.
Oh, I'm just
and like
so silly.
Everything I do is just so silly and childlike, and like the real Doodles, Nick, has like a real name, and he's a game designer, which is serious.
It's so manly.
And he plays this up as if it's this like super macho thing, but like being a board game designer is actually being a toy designer. Like, you're not lying. You actually are a toy designer. And then wrapped into this is his pursuit of Athena, which is such a weird showmance.
It's bizarre. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna like use this like romantic opportunity to like secure my lady and secure my bag.
It's very...
And it's so awkward.
It's so... Like, no one in the house seems to... but especially Spencer. Spencer is busy trying to matchmake the MMA fighter Shane and the model Lindsay, who is the person we kept thinking was a background actor. He's like, you guys should be together. Doodles and Athena, I'm not buying it. Something's weird there.
Look, Spencer knows. He's like, I've seen a lot of fake acting on reality television. I was in the hills.
It comes across as very insincere. Like, the way that he's pursuing her is so like over the top. He's like, I'm gonna write her like a date card and design a date where we're kind of in the middle of the house surrounded by people, and someone's bringing us a flower to give her. Someone's bringing us spaghetti to feed her. And then we can do
Oh my
Lady and the
God.
Tramp with a noodle in the middle.
At the end, and this is like post a conflict that we're going to talk about in a second, but at the end when he just started weeping in the middle of the house, I was like, get the fuck out of here, Doodles.
Well, he admits, he
out.
presents it to us as manipulation.
Yeah, and then you have like Spencer just staring at him being like, what is happening here? Like, I think it's Spencer and Demi see this and they're like,
Yeah.
what
Is he crying?
is wrong? What is he doing? This is such
He's
bullshit.
Athena is also looking at him, but there's backstory. So they have this weird flirtation where they're in the hot tub together and he's like, she's so hot, she's such a smoke show, but like we can work together. And it's unclear whether it's like a romantic relationship or a strategic one or both. And then the more he escalates it, the more it seems like he is pretending that it's a romantic pursuit for the purposes of a strategic alliance that is mixed in with all this like constant comments about how hot she is, which feel very objectifying because it doesn't seem like he's that sincerely interested in her. It almost seems like he's making a joke of it. Like he's like, look what this ridiculous courtship I'm doing.
I hated it.
And then she gets an exit strategy and she doesn't tell him about it right away. She probably should have, because he tells her that he has like a lever disabler so that when they activate it, the lever from the watchtower won't work, which is useful. It's not everything because people also watch out of the windows and you can like run down from the tower, but it's useful. She doesn't tell him in return that she has an escape plan. So he ends up teaming up with 2 other people, including Kim Zolciak, who is like constantly talking about how she's actually the most creative and smartest one in the game. And she's not. Like, she's delusional. But to be fair, most of them are not very good at this game, actually. And their escape plan does not go well at all because they have they execute on the part of his strategy that involves disabling the lever, which is keeping Demi's huge bear in the cage for 3 minutes. And they just leave the bear in there and go to another room, and someone takes the bear out after about 15 seconds and the lever works again. Like, you guys kind of overlooked an important part of the plan. So his plan fails. Then Athena tells him very shortly before her window opens that she has this escape strategy. Last minute, she cuts him in. She ends up cutting in Spencer because he overhears. And he's just fuming. He's like, he wants to run. And Athena's like, no, I'm going to run. And he's like, no, I'm going to run. And is really mad that she didn't involve him in the strategy of the planning. He's mad that she included Spencer. But it's clear that also Athena is mad that he didn't tell her that he was doing an escape with someone else. So she's being kind of snitty with him while they're doing this last minute planning. It's just a disaster. And it doesn't go well. They don't end up getting the money.
But then he loses his fucking mind at her. It is disgusting to watch.
He's like, you cost us $440,000. Like, he derides her intelligence. He's like, basically, like, I thought you were smart, and I think you played this incredibly stupidly and
fuck
badly.
you, dude. She's literally a mathematician.
I mean, maybe she's not good at escaping from a house, but you're still here also,
right,
my friend.
Actually, in fact, everyone's still there.
Yeah, except for Stein and Cynthia. And like, if you're a game designer and you can't get out, like, I don't really see how you're finding the platform to say that someone else who can't get out is actually stupid. And also, he's mad that she didn't let him, like, design the strategy of the escape. Like, he feels entitled to her escape.
Oh, yeah.
And he's mad that she didn't let him kind of take the lead on it.
He's gross. The way he speaks to her is so out of line. I was like, this man would be a nightmare to date. Like,
yeah.
he is just like that fucking classic archetype of a guy who's like, I'm nerdy, but like a little cute, but that's why I'm so non-threatening. And then they just like treat you like absolute garbage.
Well, he took her on one romantic date, so now he is
entitled to bully her.
Yeah, he is like he is entitled to everything that is hers. Everything that is hers is his. And if she withholds that from him after he took her on a romantic date,
Yeah, fuck her.
fuck her, honestly. And he doesn't. He's like, I don't really respect her anymore. Like he really very quickly turns on her when she doesn't do what he wants.
It's awful.
It's really gross. And the producer that is like helping him with his confessional even asks, like, are you worried about like compromising your morals in any way with how this is being handled? And he's like, no, I'm just worried about like the audience response. Like
Okay,
he knows it
first of
looks
all-
really bad. He knows it looks really bad. And he's like, that's what I do care about that, but I don't think I'm like doing anything.
I'm sorry. You're an absolute moron if you would say that on camera.
Yeah, that is true.
Like, you're an
if you're worried about the fan
actual
response,
stupid person.
if you're worried about the fan response, then say, yeah, of course. But the stakes are just really high.
Right. You
so
can't
maybe
just be
it's
like,
getting to
oh,
me.
I just want everyone to like me out there in the audience. Like, do you know how much a producer would love to have that clip to play of you to make you look like a real piece of shit?
Yeah. I mean, speaking of being strategically dumb. my
Right. That's what I
friends.
mean. It's just,
Yeah.
he annoys me so much.
And then they basically break up. Like, he's basically like, I'm done with you. And she's like, okay, what the fuck? Like, why are you suddenly screaming at me? She's like, this is a side I've never seen of him. And because he was showing her his like non-threatening toy designer Doodles side. Just a caricature of what a certain type of man thinks people will perceive without
Yep.
much will not see respectfully. They're like, they won't respect me as Doodles, the toy designer, because I don't respect Doodles, the toy designer.
He's like, what a pussy that guy is.
Yeah. And so then he loses his shit at Athena, shows her exactly the kind of person he is. She's like, okay, I guess I'm done too. But then she gets another exit strategy.
And she's kind of like, who am I supposed to build a relationship with here now? Like, at the
she
end,
invested a lot in this relationship
Yeah.
and she has no one else.
at the end, you really have to go back to your connections because it's like do or die. Everyone's getting, like, there's a million escape attempts going on in like the last day.
But it's not a simple decision. Like, he is sort of
No.
lobbying her to work together again.
This
and
is when he starts
cries.
crying. He's
And
like,
he starts crying while talking
He's like,
about
"Have
the
you heard-"
prisoner's
oh my
dilemma.
God. The way he mansplains the prisoner's dilemma, like, and
I was
extremely, like, everyone
Dying.
knows.
Everyone knows.
Everyone
And she is
knows.
getting her PhD in mathematics. I'm pretty sure she's heard of the prisoner's dilemma. And the way that she just like takes that and isn't like, fuck you, I know about the prisoner's dilemma. I was like, this is a patient woman.
I know. I was like, I would fucking lose my mind if a random man tried to be like, there's
Sweetie.
there's this experiment. It really is about if two people can come together to cooperate. It's called the prisoner's dilemma. Like, fuck you.
I didn't need this explanation of the prisoner's dilemma when I was 18 years old. Like, she
Exactly.
is, again, a PhD candidate in mathematics. I think she gets it. But he is like weeping, talking about his emotional feelings about the prisoner's dilemma, which
It's
also I'm like,
unhinged.
you're trying to show us
Also-
some genuine emotion, but you're not talking about her or your relationship. You're talking about how meaningful the prisoner's dilemma is to you.
Also, I'm not even sure you adequately understand the prisoner's dilemma.
I don't think he does either. Because the kind of one of the points of the prisoner's dilemma is that maybe it would actually be more beneficial to him specifically to screw her over
Right.
in the end. And why would she trust him not to? That's the prisoner's dilemma. But like each of them would benefit more if they got the other person to trust them and then screwed them over.
Right.
That's
He's like, no, the real lesson of the prisoner's dilemma is that we should all work together.
is that you should trust me.
Yeah.
I'm crying. Look at me. Real tears. And Athena's like, why are you crying? And Spencer and Demi are watching, being like, why is he crying? But again, she doesn't have that many options.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, she's like, okay, whatever, Hail Mary.
Yeah. And then
And they ultimately get foiled by Steve.
by Steve,
And
who
his
tells them
fake
that he has
button
a
disabler.
button disabler. Yeah. And so they all end up sharing the pot. And hey, there are worse things than having like another $40-something thousand pre-tax at your disposal.
Probably walk away with about 20 grand each, but that is not nothing. And I do always enjoy like the feel good nature of everyone walking away with something for their troubles.
Yeah.
From one of these shows, because I'm like, you're trapped, you're making TV, you're debasing yourself. Like, you should get paid something.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they were also getting paid.
I think they probably also got a base salary like per day.
Not as
but
much.
When there's like a
days,
pot
it's
of
not that much, yeah.
And when there's a pot of money, they usually, I think, like the compensation probably reflects that.
I actually don't like to watch people crying because they thought they were going to get to pay off an ambulance ride from 7 years ago,
really
and
upsetting.
Now they can't.
I know.
So, should we rate this new show out of how much claustrophobia it gives us on a scale of 10 orange Lamborghinis?
I mean, as a claustrophobic person,
the show must have been a nightmare.
Yeah, it was an actual nightmare for me.
Yeah, this was like an 8 for me. It was just the vibe again was very post-apocalyptic Mr. Beast for me. I found the first like 4 to 5 episodes really unpleasant to watch.
Truly stultifying.
But then you had Susan,
There were high points.
Yeah.
You had Susan, you had Spencer, you had Demi. You had that one great successful escape by Cynthia and Stein. There were some high points. I do think that there is like a world where this show gets a second season where they could make some adjustments.
Yeah. I mean, they're clearly open to making adjustments. It seemed like a lot of it was produced on the fly.
Yeah.
They're just like, Lamborghinis aren't working. Cut the Lamborghinis. Send them back to the dealerships. What about a bike? No, never mind. What if we gave one of them a rat costume for no reason and we said it was a Christmas-themed day? No, I did not particularly enjoy this show. So I'm going to give it a nice and high claustrophobia rating. But if it comes back for a season 2, it will just depend on which reality stars they get.
Yeah, it really depends who they cast for me. But let's just say this is no traitors.
No.
And on that note, that is it for this episode of Love to See It with Emma and Claire.
Love to See It is a presentation of Odyssey. The show is produced by us, Claire Fallon and Emma Gray. This episode was edited by Ren Woods. Our theme music is by Tamar Habib, and our art is by Aaron Nestor.
If you like our show, remember to follow us, rate us 5 stars, leave a review, and of course, spread the word to all of your friends about Love to See It.
If you want to get in touch, you can email us at claireandemmapod@gmail.com.
You can also find us on TikTok at Love to See It Pod and on Instagram at Claire and Emma Pod. And you can find our newsletter Rich Text on Substack at claireandemma.substack.com. I'm also on Blue Sky at Emma Gray and on Instagram at EmmaLadyRose.
And I'm at Claire E. Fallon. Special thanks to the team at Odyssey: Eric Donnelly, Aaron Constantino, Kate Rose, Maura Curran, Melissa Wester, Carly Snyder, and Hillary Shook.
We'll be back soon.